Tam Fam, welcome to Off Script, the official after party, after conversation of the Tamron Hall Show. And joining us for Off Script is Team Christian. You guys produced probably one of the most controversial shows in a while, Feminine Energy. How do you feel?
Feeling good. We're embracing our feminine energies, Tamron.
Okay, so you already know this is going to be an extra spicy conversation by that answer. First of all, let me take care of some business. Christian, this was the very first show you produced on your own with your team. Congratulations. You guys did a great job.
Thank you.
You started out when? On the show?
Season 2.
Season 2, and now we're season 6.
Yes.
Moved on up like George and Wheezy.
Absolutely.
So when they told you guys are getting feminine energy, what did you think?
I was definitely intrigued and needed to really figure out what exactly that meant, because I feel like there's a lot of interpretations and there's a lot of conversation going on about it. So it was more just to get down to what it truly means and then be able to explore how people are embracing it.
Yeah. So full disclosure, everybody watching, how we came up with the topic, I started to see people reference feminine energy a lot. A lot of women I know, they would say, I'm embracing my feminine energy. And I'd see, a lot of writers and bloggers say feminine energy. And it'd been in my mind for a while. And then this article popped up, Essence Online. I instantly called Shannon and Kiana, our executive producers, and then Christian and his team jumped on it because I didn't fully understand what it meant. And I also didn't understand why it was, well, this is the after show. It was pissing people off. Some people get pissed off. Our audience was really split down the middle. There were women in our audience that were like, their backs were like up because they had interpreted or believed that it meant subjugating yourself to a man. Like they used to call it like dumbing down to get a man. And you guys, how did you start your research for it? Because where do you start?
Honestly, we jumped onto TikTok, onto social media to see.
What did you put in? Just feminine energy?
Yeah. And there were tons and tons of posts and videos and comments. It's a conversation that's been happening on social media for a while. Really watching as many videos and reading as many articles as we can to see what feminine energy means to people, because there seems to be a common narrative, and then it kind of branches off into
what was the common narrative that when you first started to see?
That feminine energy is about embracing your vulnerability, your nurturing side, your calmness, just kind of finding peace within yourself and your day-to-day, and not always constantly being like on the move or like having your hustle, slowing it down a little bit, and kind of just finding peace with the space that you're currently in. So,
which is interesting, because then if you're on the hustle, Cassie, that's equated with masculine energy. Is that what? That's where it gets sticky.
And that's what we found a lot too. I mean, scrolling through TikTok and Instagram and all of these videos, I actually came to Christian at the beginning and I was like, I know we're doing conversation, so we want to have all the different sides of this. But a lot of what I was seeing is get rid of all masculine energy, only embrace feminine energy in the like a soft girl era kind of side of it. And some people took it to an extreme, which ended up being a lot of the quit your jobs, let the men and their masculine energy provide for you and let them do stuff for you as the female, the woman. But then there was a lot of people who were just like, you just have to be nicer and softer, and you can still have that hustle, but don't, let it stress you out. You shouldn't be reaching burnout, recreate it in a feminine energy kind of way.
Well, I'm interested because, society, on one hand, people are like, we have to get away from gender norms and defining gender. But I saw some of the most quote unquote progressive women saying, look at Tasha Smith. Tasha Smith, I've known Tasha a long time. She is so vocal. She is so honest. She is so real. She is so raw. She is so successful on her own. To see her say, I need to soften because it's keeping me from having the relationship I want, was a surprise. Did that surprise you guys?
Yeah, it's a thing that I think a lot of us deal with in terms of it becoming a popular topic these days. And also you know, growing up and being in a culture where everybody is meant to achieve and strive for your goals and you can do
Yeah.
anything is a wonderful message that, you know, gets given to all children. And then sometimes you take it to an extreme, whether that's in your environment or that's something that you choose to, you know, make a decision on your own and be like, I just have to hustle, I just have to focus on one thing, and everything else can fall to the wayside. And I think what Tasha was saying was really great because it brought that element of balance and that element of making that your own personal choice and doing it in a way that works for you. But realizing that as we grow, as we evolve as people, that part of balance and reincorporating parts of ourselves that may have not, you know, been nurtured as much by other people or by ourselves
But what
is
she,
something.
but I hate to interrupt you, but I think, you know, that's the way you worded it's beautiful. But in the end, though, for so many women, it was boiling down to, I've been paying for dinners and now I want somebody to take care of me. I've been taking out the trash and now I want somebody to take care of me. I said at the end of the show, I'll tell you why I wore what I wore. I wore pants because I felt like masculine, and then I wore kind of a lower cut top because quote unquote feminine. But as independent as I am, I do not take out the trash at my home. I have, I'm in a loving marriage, but I've had partners that I've lived with before. I did not. My dad never let my mom's car start without him. He would go warm up the car, but yet he raised me to be this independent woman. So on one hand, my dad was like warming up the car, he took out the trash, and I know how to change a tire. But I grew up with expectations of the man in my life doing those things. So I'm like, am I not progressive? Like, what is going on? I don't know. Cassie, you're laughing.
No, I just that is the same thing. It's been, you know, that is kind of a lot of the different eras, the
Yeah.
different cultures for women. That's a lot of the struggle is finding that balance of where do you land on and what do you agree with? Because someone once told me just because you should know how to do something doesn't mean you should have to do it.
Oh,
And it was that kind of idea to me, at least. That's how I see it of like, can I be independent?
yeah.
Should I know how to be independent and be able to take care of myself? Absolutely. Should I necessarily have to do it, or is
Yeah.
that my want in this world?
Yeah.
Who knows? But that is my choice, and
Yeah.
that's kind of the balance that we've been finding a lot with the women that we spoke to as well.
And so you said, because I think, you know, I love the conversation. I felt like this show, and that's why we're doing the after show. Welcome to the after show, the official off script after show of the Tamron Hall show. I'll tell you, I still left unresolved. I did. The show is fantastic, but I think this is a great example of a conversation that doesn't have a button up, right? It
Right.
doesn't, because we had the lovely ladies on our show who, you know, were talking about like feminine dressing, because you had Ariana who, you know, she wanted the princess treatment formula. Courtney talked about being in touch with herself, and Naomi was on the show. She grew up in a traditional household, husband was supportive. I loved all of our guests, but I felt like, as great as the show was, all of us were still holding a part back because it's still a hot conversation.
I give
Yeah.
credit to Ariana and Naomi for coming on because their perspective definitely raised a lot of questions. You could definitely hear in the response from the Tam Fam, from the audience. Like, I could hear them behind me as Ariana and Naomi were speaking. I think there isn't one road, there isn't one way. I think where it starts to get a little divisive is how feminine energy
Right, that's
relates
it.
to
How
your
you
relationship
interact
and
with a
how it
man. That is
relates
it. Because
to
both
a
of them
man.
had their own jobs.
Right.
I think when people get upset is
Yes.
when she said, "I dress pretty," and that, which is so crazy because I love dressing pretty, and I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I've not dressed
Yes.
pretty for a guy. I mean, my freakum dresses. This is the off show. Listen, I got back in the day before I got married. I'm not gonna tell you. I would pick out if I was hanging out with my friends and I'm hanging out with a guy or my husband, I'm going to
Yes.
dress differently. I'm going to dress for his gaze. And I feel
Mhm.
weird telling you all this now.
Oh, I think it's completely relatable because it can like, you're going to obviously dress differently for a date you want to dress to impress. If I'm coming into the studio and I'm coming in for a show, I'm going to dress up a little more.
But you're
I'm going
going
to
to
step
dress
my
to
game
get
up a
what you
little more than
want.
I am. right now.
And so that's what she was saying. I want this
Exactly. So I
man.
don't.
But I mean, you all are, the next generation. You're all much younger than I am. I thought it was a very progressive conversation. I thought it was still one that we could have gone edgier. And I do think about like the 80s daytime talk, they would have people yelling at people. So we're in a different world and a different environment. But I do like that we brought in like the Kendrick Lamar thing, like, because even here's the most masculine of guys, the most historic rap beef ever, and he's saying the best of who he is when he's tapped into his feminine side. That said, as brilliant as it's also like saying you're tapping into a softer side, and feminine energy is strong too. I mean, on one end, we're saying it's the feminine energy that keeps the world on its axis, which is soft, but it has to be hard. I don't know. Jeez Louise. We're gonna have to do a part 10
There's
of
still
this.
strength in femininity. No,
Femininity.
just saying there's still strength in femininity.
Yeah.
If that means vulnerability, if that means your strength in being vulnerable, there's still a strength there. And I think that's also
Right.
something
But
that
I
men
think,
can
Christian,
learn
the
from. And
heart
I
of
think that
this
was
and
also
what
part of
makes
the
people
conversation.
mad is that the large majority of people on TikTok, tell me if I'm wrong, it's about dress. It is about ensnaring a man through the
Presentation.
ideas of bringing your softness in and down so that you can get this partner.
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of the TikToks that I saw personally had to do with, not only acting softer and, we can call it, being more vulnerable and, showing that softer side, which is absolutely you do you. But at the same time, it's, they always kind of back up these TikToks by being like, and I do this because, I expect him to be the provider. I expect him to act a certain way. And it falls under the category of like, okay, but what are you doing for yourself? Or do you even enjoy what you're doing, or are you just doing it to have the sake of having this partner who does these things for you?
And you can't sustain it.
And you can't sustain
it. I once had a person that I was dating a long, long, long time ago, and he said to me, you approach like he said to me he wasn't surprised that I had a son because he was like, you are such a boy mom. He was like, you're so tough, like and then I'm like, what does that mean, right? Because I was like, wow, but this is an ex who told me that. He was like, you are a boy mom because you have such strong masculine energy. And I was like, okay. I guess he was trying to say that's why. Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah,
like.
just how do you take
Maybe it's
that?
too masculine for you. That's why we're not married. But I mean, it's like, but I don't know. I don't know. I think it's really interesting. I especially look at it because you all are younger and you have had a lot of distance between how people used to talk about relationships. When I went to college, people, even though that was just in the 90s, people went to college to get married. And I guess people still do.
Yeah, I think it's as relationships are a big part of the reason people speak about this, at least on social media and the things that we saw.
That's
Like,
what it is, right? It is about relationships. That's the part that I want to do in a part 2. We got to get people who are going to come on and admit that this is mostly about relationships. Ooh, okay. So what did you guys tap into your feminine energy after the show?
I feel like we talked about it a lot. We really did.
So I went home, I put on a
Some
negligee.
tequila, yeah, we
I
did.
made negligee. Do they still say that? I flipped pancakes for Steven. I was like, hey, boo, you take out the trash, you start up the car.
Well, Riya and I talked about it. We were like, we're going to come in. I mean, we all talked about getting dressed up. Like Christian says, you dress up for studio day. But Riya and I were like, we're going to go really touch into our feminine energy. We're going to dress really nice for studio day. We showed up. We were like, wow, we look good. And then we saw the guests coming on the show. And we're like, oh, they stepped it up 10 levels. We were not that feminine energy level.
You got to come out in pastels. You got to look like it's Easter every day. I think it's
also fun.
I think it's an interesting conversation. I think we're going to have more in society because I do think with the number of people now trying to date in real life, right? Moving away from apps, looking for partners, we are trying to find that sweet spot in attraction, right? I think that's a big part of it, right? I think no matter your gender, you're trying to find a way to maximize attracting a partner. And I think that's what's at the core of this. I don't know what you all think. Let us know. Is this about just simply trying to maximize getting the right partner in your life? I'm so proud of this team. I look forward to the sequel this September. But it's different than Trad Wife. Before we go, it's still different from Trad Wife, or is it the same? What'd you guys get?
I saw the difference, like when we were talking about Ariana and Naomi working and having their own sense of independence. They're not necessarily saying that they're completely submissive to their boyfriends or husbands where they don't have a voice. And I think even for them taking their intention of how am I going to attract this man, they're leading with their own plan and goal. I think it can get a little murky there into thinking that they're giving all of the men control.
Yeah.
Which I don't think
I actually was fortunate enough to work on the Trad Wife episode that we did. And so I got to meet some Trad Wives. And then coming onto this one, I went into it honestly because I didn't know much about feminine energy in general, just what I had seen. And I did kind of think it was like a little spinoff, a little playoff on Trad Wives. But the more I got to know specifically the women we brought on, they talked all about their careers,
businesses and careers.
Exactly. They
Look
don't
at Tasha Smith.
give it up.
I mean, she stays booked and busy, directing, teaching, and then she says, but I want to have this feminine energy thing. I love the show. Congratulations as the first time team together pulling this off. I thought it was well researched. I thought the cast, and that's what we call when you bring in people, the people that were on were phenomenal. All of the guests. I love that it was ignited by a topic. I'm still old school articles. I don't like to do segments because it was on TikTok. I like to do things because of somebody thoughtfully writing about it. She did that in that Essence article. I'm so proud of you guys. I'm going to go tap into my feminine energy. I got flowers back here. Those are from the 1000th episode. Carla Hall sent those. Yeah, those are from Carla Hall.
Love it.
Love Carla Hall.
Well deserved.
So thank you. We love you. This is Off Script, the official after show for the Tamron Hall show. Let us know what you think. Feminine energy. Is it really just about trying to find a way to attract a partner? Whether you call it feminine energy, whatever you call it, is at the heart of what we're seeing. People now giving up on dating apps and trying to figure out how to connect in person. Let us know. That's the script, off script. We need a theme song. That's off script, off script. I'm going to make Moses write that. He thinks he's a little songwriter. All right. Bye, guys. We love you. Thank you, guys. Congratulations. I'm proud of you. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, Tamron.